Welcome to Our Best Self. Here we share stories and experiences to grow healthy habits and practices that will lead to both your happiness and success, personally and professionally. Come with us to explore mental strength, happiness, health, business success, and the gamut at large. Today we're in for a special treat. I had a chance to sit down with Dave Durante, who is an accomplished professional athlete. He is an Olympian. He has been training and have worked with some of the best gymnastics athletes and coaches in the world. What he brings to us and is sharing with us on this podcast is dealing with and focusing in these stressful and intense situations. You'll hear some background noise. I apologize. It was a very active facility, and we were just really grateful just to capture his words and share them with you today. So how do you focus on mindset, stepping in the competition for, and talk about the voices, talk about how to approach hard things?
So I think when you're a competitive athlete, what maybe some people don't recognize unless you kind of go through it is how important and in some cases even more important the mental side is than the physical side. And what a big separator is from those elite people that kind of achieve the highest of the high in a sport or business or whatever it might be, have a mindset that allow them to achieve even more than they think they're capable of doing. And for me, it was one of the biggest challenges of my career as an athlete to get that mindset to be on par with what I was capable of doing physically. And it took me years. And it really took until the last 5-6 years of my career to finally start to get the mindset to be an actual component of my training. And it was always a really difficult thing for me. In fact, I wasn't a very talented gymnast growing up, and I had to work very hard. And I like to think that my work ethic is what allowed me to achieve some success in the sport. But the mental side was something that I always struggled with. I always had a tendency to overthink everything. And I would go into competition. I would be worried more about not failing rather than succeeding. And that mindset automatically put me in a hole. And for years, I was always struggling to figure out, how do I get into a situation and look at the competition and not only say that I belong here, but the mindset of, I should be winning this. And what you hear a lot of times, elite athletes, Michael Jordan and, Wayne Gretzky and all these amazing athletes that kind of transcend their sport. What you end up hearing them say is that, they had such belief that it bordered on arrogance a lot of times. And you see that a lot with elite athletes. And there were some in my sport too that growing up, I would have looked at them as a little bit more arrogant. And the more I got to know them, the more I trained with them, the more I got to spend time with them outside of the gym, I started to recognize that it was just supreme confidence. And that supreme confidence was something I was missing. And my final coach, who was my coach at the Olympic Training Center for the last few years of my career, finally taught me that part of being an athlete and taught me how to approach gymnastics with the mindset of a champion. And I could have all the physical tools in the world. I could be prepared like you wouldn't believe and not have the mental mindset, and things go out the window. And being around those athletes that had that killer instinct and had that ability to say, I'm here to win. These guys are here. They have to beat me. I'm not going to beat myself. These guys have to come here to win. It completely changed the way that I approach competition. I would go in head first rather than going in tentative. And those last few years of my career, I actually thought that my mental game was so strong, and that's why I started to have some real success at the end. And I wish someone would have taught me that earlier on in my career. I wish someone would have taught me that growing up or in high school or in college. And those are things that really took me a long time to be able to slowly start to put into my training, something I wish I would have had earlier.
Now, is there a habit that you started doing that gave you that supreme confidence?
Yeah, so there were a bunch of things that, working with sports psychologists and working more closely with my coach with some of the things that he applied. He was a world champion, one of the best gymnasts of all time. So having that connection to an athlete coach, someone that had gone through the same, struggles that you do as an athlete, it was hugely beneficial. But there were a few things that really stuck out to me in terms of what I would do on a mental side to prepare. One was visualization techniques. And I would have to say that was above and beyond the most important to me in terms of preparation, because in some ways it allowed me to train even when I wasn't in the gym. And I would use 3 different types of visualization techniques when I was preparing for a competition. The first one was became the most important, and it was the hardest one for me to develop. And it was a visualization technique where I would perform my routine on any given event, but in slow motion. And the slow motion, almost like I had like a TiVo in my mind, and I would be able to go through, see myself saluting the judge, see myself preparing for the routine, see myself going through every skill. And if there was a mistake, I would pause, rewind, and do it again until I would see it perfectly done. And the issue with that, I had tried visualization techniques for years, and the issue was always that I would see myself doing a routine, and I would constantly see myself failing. And it was frustrating. It was like, why can't I visualize something going right? If I can't visualize it, it would just repeat failure. And it was constantly difficult for me to be able to see it correct, and it would be just frustrating me. I'm like, I'm not doing this. It was more of a hassle and more of a negative than a positive. And then I started to use this slow down technique where if I made a mistake, I just reverse, even slow it down even more until it was perfect. And then over time, I became so comfortable with it that I was able to go into my second technique, which is just normal speed, like I was doing it in real time. And I was able to go through the entire actions like the judge was watching, or like I was doing it in real time. And it became such a benefit. I really felt like I was able to get more training in because of that tool. And the third variation that I would use was the judge's perspective or the audience perspective. So instead of watching from my own perspective doing the routine, I would watch it from the judge or from the audience. And I would do that constantly. And it gave me the ability to say, okay, I can do this physically, but I can also do this mentally.
That's perfect. So I'm going to be traveling to Rwanda for the hospital that I'm opening. And the kids are stuck in, I believe, like a generational loop. And they have ambitions of national sports teams and these other things. So if you were working with these types of kids, how would you help them see in the visualization that they can go beyond where they are in their present? If they want to get in the national cycling team, football team, these other classics. But how would you try to transfer that to maybe kids that you meet or that are in a horrible position?
Yeah, I think the key to success, at least from my perspective growing up, is finding a sport or a career path or a skill that you love doing. You love doing something that you want to wake up every morning and it's not a chore, it's not a burden to do. And it's not easy to find. It's not something that I think you find right away. It's some navigation that normally happens to kind of find that path. But you have to enjoy doing it. It can't be something that's forced upon you, because at some point there's going to be a breaking point. And I was fortunate enough to find, my true passion in life being gymnastics and that sport when I was very young. And it wasn't like, this is it and that's all I want to do. I played a ton of sports. I, did a lot of other activities around school and outside of, with my friends and things like that. But gymnastics was the one that I knew I had the ability to do something different with. And I think my first piece of advice would be try and find something that you gravitate towards, something that excites you when you wake up in the morning. Because no matter how good you are at a particular sport, no matter how much pure talent you have for something, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to want to pursue it. And so I always want people to really try to find their passion as early as possible. And it's not going to be something that you find when you're 5 years old or 6 years old, in most cases, but constantly try to strive for something that really, really excites you. Come Monday morning, you shouldn't dread going to work, or you shouldn't dread going to practice. It should be something you're incredibly excited about.
That's awesome. Yeah. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.